Everyone knows the Gulf Coast is the best coast. Let's cap Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs. Hi, everyone. Matthew DeSantis here with NYRA Bets, and welcome to another episode of Capping the Card right here on NYRA Bets YouTube, where we're going to be going through Saturday's 10-race card at Tampa Bay Downs. Now, before we get to that, I want to remind you, if you're not playing on NYRA Bets already, make sure to use that promo code BONUS200 to get up to a $200 deposit match bonus. Again, use that promo code BONUS200 if you're not playing on NYRA Bets already. Now, like I said, welcome to Capping the Card. Make sure to press that like and subscribe button so you can get all of our great content on NYRA Bets YouTube, because last week, folks, we had a day at Oaklawn Park. 7 overall winners on Capping the Card, including $22 stakes winner, Bourbon Bash. That's always good. Strategic Risk was another one. Bricklin early in the card. A lot of good winners on that Oaklawn card last Saturday. So, hey, let's try to replicate it, because that's one thing I love about horse racing. No game humbles you more quickly. After you had a big Saturday, you might come back and, pitch an offer on Sunday. Hopefully that's not the case here. But if this is your first time tuning in to Capping the Card, the premise is pretty straightforward. We're going to go through all 10 races on Saturday's card at Tampa Bay Downs that features 2 stakes races, the Wayward Lass and the Gasparilla. I'm going to give you my top pick in each race. That should be pretty self-explanatory. I'm also going to give you a value play. Value play is a horse generally 6-1 or higher on the morning line, and a horse that in some instances I think is a legit win threat that you should be including in your sequential tickets. The others sometimes are horses that I think are simply going to outrun their odds. Maybe a 12-1, 15-1 horse that I think can run second or third and enrich something like an exacta or a trifecta. And I'll try to call those distinctions out as we get to them. But listen, folks, the only way to get through all 10 races on Saturday at Tampa is to start with the very first one. And so let's dive in to it. And the first race is an $8,000 claimer for 4-year-old and up, going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt. And before we talk about the specifics of this race, one of the things I do want to make sure, if you're not familiar with playing Tampa Bay Downs, first of all, it's a really fun track. I lived in Lakeland, Florida for a while. I went to grad school at the University of Florida in Gainesville up the road. So I love Tampa Bay Downs, been there a bunch, but their main track can be very speed favoring sometimes. So that is something to absolutely pay attention to. And particularly on Saturdays, it is hard to do a lot of passing on the main track at Tampa Bay Downs. It's just the way it is. Sometimes it can be hard making a move from third to first, let alone from last to first. And that is something we will talk about today in a few different races, including this very first one, as there is not a ton of speed in this race. I would expect the number 6 horse, Final Drama, who's getting the blinkers on for Kelly Breen, to be that controlling speed with Sammy Camacho aboard. I took a long look at that horse. The recent form has not been good. Feels like this horse is going the wrong direction right now, and I'm not thrilled with how this horse has been running. I do think the blinkers might help a little bit for Kelly, though that's not always been a plus move for his barn, just putting the blinkers on, particularly at this level. So something to keep in mind. But a horse that I think is going to set the right sort of a trip is the number 10, Stone Cold Flex, 3-1 on the morning line with Charlie Marquez up for Victor Crosco Jr. I like this horse because, well, quite frankly, this horse crossed the wire first last time out at these condition levels. This is an N3L. That's something that is very important, because as horses move through their condition levels, I like to see horses that have had success at that condition. A lot of times when you go from maiden to an N2L, there's a little bit of a learning curve. And again, when you go through an N2L to an N3L, there's a learning curve again. This horse has run a couple times at the N3L level, crossed the wire first last time, was DQ'd to second. I honestly don't think the order of finish was going to change. There's no doubt he interfered with the horse King Freud, who came in second. But I'm not going to litigate what the steward's decision was that day. All I know is that Stone Cold Flex got up on the lead and looked really good that day. I think could sit a very similar trip. Charlie's got to work something out from the outside for sure, but this horse has good speed going 2 turns and should be able to kind of track the pace of the 6 in this race during the early going. Then when this horse is up front, tends to do its best running, but doesn't need to get up to the front, has come from off the pace before, did so on the synthetic actually, which is where the horse's 2 career victories both take place. But this horse has only run on the dirt twice the last 2 times out and ran very good figures, 67, 64 buyers at this 8,000 N3L level, a third and a DQ back to second, though crossing the wire first. So I think this horse more than fits in this spot. And I really like this horse more than your morning line favorite, number 3, if I were you, at 5-2 for Juan Arriaga. Juan's outstanding at Tampa Bay Downs, 33%. He's got Sam Marin up on the mount. Always dangerous. But here's the thing. This is a horse coming off the claim for Juan. Believe it or not, over the last 5 years, Juan only 10% at Tampa Bay Downs first after the claim in these low-level claimers, $10,000 or less. So this is not necessarily a winning spot for him, despite him being a very high percentage trainer when you look at off the claim. Additionally, this one just graduated from N2L. Now, this is a horse that's 2 for 18. We now expect this horse, to suddenly back up in a victory when it wasn't able to do that after breaking its maiden. So I was going to give a pass to the 3 a little bit just because of that going through the conditions. Now, a horse that I think is really interesting value in this race, probably more underneath, is the number 9, Mr. Sweets, at 8-1 for Enrique Hernandez with Sonny Leon up on the mount. This one is dropping back down in class, ran an 8,000 N3L 2 back, though that was coming off a little bit of a freshening after running at Prairie Meadows, came to Tampa Bay Downs, changed barns, and was claimed and by Enrique, who then stepped the horse up to a 16,000 N3L, finished 5th that day, but was 4 lengths beaten and didn't get off to the best start that day either. When this horse is running at its best, it tends to get up on the front end. I think this horse has very good speed. I think Sonny hopefully can get a little bit better speed out of this horse. Was breaking from the inside rail. Now you move a little further outside. I think Mr. Sweets at 8-1. Listen, if for some reason Stone Cold Flex doesn't fire, this is the type of horse at 8-1 that, maybe underneath, but that's 62 buyer last time out. This horse has races to run back to a 68 buyer and a claiming 20 back at Prairie Meadows. This horse could get the win. The more you kind of look at it and you look at the rest of this field, you go, there's a possibility if this horse gets up in a really forward position, might just be able to get up there and get the job done. Has shown the ability to pass horses, did that 4 back in the N2L level, and was able to come from mid-pack essentially and pass horses. So it doesn't need to get to the lead, which is how the horse broke its maiden. But 8-1, I feel like, is very good value in a pretty wide open claiming race there to kick things off in race number 1. Well, let's go to race number 2, which is a $32,000 optional claimer. And this one is going 7 furlongs for 4-year-olds and up on the main track. And ultimately went to the number 1 Icelander. This is another kind of a tricky race. And there is I don't want to say a lot of speed in this race, but there's a little bit of speed in this race. Certainly the number 5, Secret Empire, the number 6, Skyloft, who I'll talk about in a second, both possess very good speed, as does the number 8, Impacto. It's possible things maybe, I don't want to say get too hot up on the front end, but 7 furlongs is always a little bit of an interesting distance. And I like to look for horses that have had success at 7 furlongs. Enter the number 1, Icelander for Carlos Navarez with Cipriano Gil up on the mount. This one won at Tampa Bay Downs last time out, going 7 furlongs. Now is, graduating a little bit, going from an N1X to an N2X. But this is a 4-time career winner. This horse knows how to win, has won a couple times on synth, has won a couple times on the dirt. In fact, in the 4 dirt starts, 2 victories, 1 second, 1 third. Has never been worse than third in those career efforts on the dirt. The speed figures are very good. Likes to hit the 7 furlong mark, I think. That race has already come back and produced a next out winner where the second place horse came back to win next time out. So there's a lot to like about Icelander. I think if Gil, who rode this horse the last 3 times out and won 2 of those races, I think if Gil is able to get this horse out in a good spot, kind of tracking behind the early speed, I think 3-1 on Icelander is a really nice value for a horse that honestly he's done very, very little wrong in his career. And like I said, very honest horse, 5-year-old horse out of Speedster. Like I said, nice horse overall, type of horse that, I don't know, you like to have a horse like this running at Tampa Bay Downs. I just think a horse versatile, can work through the conditions. 7 furlongs is the right distance. I like this one a lot at 3-1 on the morning line. Now, in terms of the value play, the number 6 Skyloft, 8-1 on the morning line for trainer Mike Denny with Jesus Castanon up on the mount. This is a horse that needs to get back to showing better speed and was DQ'd last time, or was moved up, I should say. Not DQ'd, moved up last time out via disqualification, but really didn't get off to the best start. And when this horse runs its best, it's up on the front end. And it can do that on dirt or turf. So this is not a horse that needs to be on one surface or the other. The speed figures have largely translated from one to the other. The speed itself is translated from one to the other. That's something to always be a little worried about. But this is a horse that won 4 times in 6 starts in 2025. This is a horse that knows how to win, likes to win, 4 wins in 10 career starts. 8-1 on the morning line feels like a really good price. Is this horse fast enough to wire him? Maybe. The horse has a win going 7 furlongs as well. The only time going 7 was actually here at Tampa and was able to get the win. 3 for 4 winning at Tampa Bay Downs. I don't know. 8-1 on this horse feels like a really good deal. I know some of those speed figures maybe need to get a little bit faster, but this is a horse that just seems to fit if you're willing to make an excuse for the last race, as this horse just didn't get the trip it needed. That this horse, when it's up on the front end, runs a lot different than when this horse is behind other horses. So I think you get this horse up on the front end again. I think 8-1 on Skyloft is a really interesting price. But listen, Mr. Penny Pincher, the number 2, makes a ton of sense. The number 5, Secret Empire, makes sense. This is a pretty spready race. I wouldn't go too skinny in this one. Well, let's go to race number 3 on the card, which is a $6,250 claimer for 4-year-olds and up, going 7 furlongs on the dirt. And, listen, this is a race where there's not a ton of pace. And I just kind of went to where I think the speed is going to be, and that's towards the outside. The number 10, Bangarang. What a name, Bangarang. For Timothy Ham, Charlie Marquez up on the mound. I think this horse has the best speed in the field. Second back from a little bit of a freshening, had been running at Belterra, then came here to Tampa Bay Downs, finished second last time out in a 12-horse field that at this level, going 7, has won at Tampa Bay Downs before, has won at this distance before, checks a lot of boxes, has good speed. I think might be able to get up on the front end and take him gate to wire, because there is no speed in this race. That's the thing, is you look at a horse like Looking for Roses for Saffie Joseph. Listen, Saffie's got a lot of horses I like later on in the card. This is a horse that's a deep closer in a 62.5 claimer or a 6.25 claimer. I don't love that. You could look at a horse like Osprey. Has a little bit better speed for Juan Arriaga, but you're still looking at a horse that comes from well off the pace. They're at 7-2. So some of these horses that were logical alternatives just don't have any speed at all. And there's just not much speed up and down this entire field. So I think if Charlie's smart, he's got the outside post, just go to the front. I don't think anybody's catching you. So I think 6-1 on Bangarang is a really good bet. I like this horse quite a lot in this particular spot. Now, in terms of a value play, look right next door. The number 9, Melody Win. 10-1 on the morning line for Gerard Ochoa. And I think, listen, it's the same song, second verse. This is the next fastest horse in the race. And to be clear, this horse is not all that fast. This horse's best efforts came up on the front end. You look at when this horse was competitive in the maiden ranks, was going up to the lead or tracking the pace. Looking at when this horse won it, claiming N2L. Well, geez, what was that? The horse was up close to the pace in a 12-horse field, was sitting third. Last time out at an N3L, where was the horse? Sitting mid-pack, but showing a little bit of speed, can get the job done at the distance. 3 wins at Tampa, all 3 career starts at Tampa were victories, or I shouldn't say that. All 3 victories that this horse has had were in those 10 races at Tampa. 2 for 5 winning at the distance. Again, the speed figures are not that far off where this horse needs to be. I just think this horse gets the perfect trip. And I think, this is one where Joseph Trejos can kind of put this horse in a good spot early. I don't see any reason why this horse can't contend for win honors, or at the very least be a horse that you use underneath in your exactas trifectas to enrich it, because there's just no speed in this race. So I'd rather go to horses that I think are going to be up on the pace on a track that tends to be speed favoring in race number 3. Well, let's go to race number 4, which is an $8,000 claimer for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up, going 6 furlongs on the main track. And in this race, going a little bit further outside, going to the number 7, Adios Tipsy, 4-1 for James Gullick. Sammy Camacho, always dangerous at Tampa Bay Downs, up on the mount. And this is a horse that took a while to break its maiden. And, was doing it, ran at Tampa a couple of times, ran at Gulfstream Park a few times, finally broke its maiden in a maiden 12.5 at Gulfstream Park. Then went to the bench from July to December. Came back in December and was really fractious in the gate and did not get off well at all, was well back. And this horse usually has broken at least halfway decent, has not been an issue before. So this horse breaking that poorly and being that far out of it was a bit of an anomaly. The horse stayed on, which you like to see, but still, first start in a few months, and the race has already produced a next out winner with regards to Mibella Janea for Juana Villa. So that horse came back to win and then actually stepped up to an N3L and ran halfway decent there. But I just think this is a horse, Adios Tipsy, is at the right level, second time now in this N2L. And a lot of times with these N2L races, I look for horses that have had the least amount of tries, because you get a lot of horses that can be 1 for 30, 1 for 26, 1 for 20, 1 for 14. Am I really going to be betting on horses like this? I would rather go with a horse that is a little bit, less seasoned and had some excuses that you could point to in this race. And that's why I like the number 7, Adios Tipsy, coming off a tough effort last time out, second back from the layoff. I think is going to be a little bit more effective this time around. Now, listen, you could look at a horse like the number 9, Baja Secret. Makes a lot of sense. Only 1 for 6. But here's the thing. A, the horse has been going downhill the last couple of times, though that could be a lot to do with running on synthetic. More importantly, the horse hasn't run since July, and it has had 3 workouts and hasn't worked in almost a month. I just don't know if this horse is ready to fire off the bench for a 4% trainer. So it's 7-2. I don't love it. Same type of thing a little bit with Fussy Girl, 2-1. You just isolate those dirt races. They're not that far above and beyond where a horse like Adios Tipsy is, honestly, on the dirt. And then you take a look at the fact this one's also coming off a pretty long layoff. And we're now going to the trainer switch to Gerald Bennett. I just don't love this one that much. It hasn't really been running that well lately. And again, has had some gaps in those workouts leading up to this debut. So a little worried about Fussy Girl at a short price. So that's why I go to Adios Tipsy. Now, right next door is a horse, Stormy Disco, 12-1 on the morning line. This is a horse that admittedly needs to move forward. Has a couple races on turf the horse could run back to if the horse is able to translate it. I just think that this one for Mike Denny at 12-1 is a little bit interesting if this one can get off a little bit better. Bobbled to the start last time out, but really kept on nicely in a field of 11 and finished 5th on the dirt. And most importantly, that race has produced 3 next out winners. That's right. Gone Long Sally goes back to win a $12,000 optional claimer. Soundtrack comes back to win a $16,000 N2L after running in an $8,000 N2L. And then Unicycle comes back and improves the buyer speed figure 8 points and wins at an N2L 8,000 as well. So it's great to see that race came back strong. The horse, like I said, had a little bit of issues out of the gate. You clean those up. And I think Stormy Disco with Rojas up, with Martina Rojas up, can really get the job done in this particular spot. And is at the very least an interesting horse to throw in underneath. Because listen, maybe a horse like Baja Secret or Fussy Girl just run a hole in the wind despite the long layoffs and things like that. Maybe the number 5 Down in the Bayou runs a nice race for Maria Bowersock. That's a possibility with Cesar Gonzalez up. But I think Stormy Disco has an opportunity to move forward at a third start off the bench and might just be able to surprise a little bit of a price at 12-1. Well, let's go to race number 5, which we finally get on the grass. And this is a $25,000 claimer for 4-year-old fillies and mares going a mile and a 16th. And a few different options in this race. Ultimately, I landed on the number 6, American Dreammaker, 9-2 for Michelle Hemingway. This is a horse coming out of an N2X 16 claimer, but that was the first race in 11 months. Horse ran very well that day, I thought. And I think comes back second back from that long layoff. And you get Carlos Edward Rojas back aboard which I like to see because clearly he rode the horse well early. It was leaving a little bit of a troubled trip in terms of getting steadied into that first turn, but bottom line is the horse showed a nice turn of foot and really kept on and was also favored that day. Now you come back, you get 9-2 on this horse, second start off the bench. I think that speed figure, that 55, is only going to go up. You look at what this horse was running before, running, in maiden special weight, special weight company. Heck, this horse even ran in a grade 3. That's right. This horse actually ran in the Jockey Club Oaks Invitational, Belmont at the Big A, and ran 7th that day in a field of 10. And so that was, listen, this horse has run against some big competition sometimes in the maiden special weight circuits. And I think just had a rough go with things first time off the bench. I love that Michelle's actually moving this horse up a little bit to the claiming 25 off that second off the start. I think this one makes a lot of sense, and you're getting a decent price at 9-2. Now, in terms of a value play, look to the number 8, Cocktail Kisses, 6-1 for Matthew Kins with Sam Marin up on the mount. And the key with this one is we're getting back on the grass. Synthetic races have not been great, but if you look and isolate those turf races, that's where the horse broke its maiden. And generally speaking, that's where the horse did its best running. 3 placements in 5 starts on the turf. So I very much so like that. This one was in over its head in a couple of those starts too, and still ran pretty well. So I think you could expect this horse to run back to those mid-60s buyers. And if so, that puts the horse right there in contention. Is coming back from a little bit of a layoff, has only had 3 works leading up to this. But still, I think this horse likes the turf, it's attracted a very good jockey in terms of Marin being 24% at Tampa Bay Downs. 6-1 feels like an honest price on a horse that has run against, like I said, very good competition, finished 3rd last time on the grass in $32,000 optional claiming company at Tampa Bay Downs, is 2 for 2 lifetime hitting the board on the turf at Tampa Bay Downs, and has that lone victory at Tampa Bay Downs on the turf. So there's plenty to like about Cocktail Kisses at 6-1 as a value play. Well, let's make the turn into the back 9 and go to the late pick 5, and that kicks off in the Gasparilla Stakes. And now, folks, it is time for the Edgar Zayas show. I often joke when I play Turfway Park, I sometimes play the Luan Machado late pick 5 because anybody knows the Axeman at Turfway Park is deadly. Edgar Zayas, I think, is going to have a very good late pick 5. And it's going to start right here in the Gasparilla Stakes with the number 3, Tessellate. And this is a horse for Saffie Joseph Jr. making the trip up from Gulfstream Park. Won the Juvenile Florida Sprint last time out by, 13 lengths. With Zayas up on the mount, earned a 74 buyer speed figure that day, was severely geared down. That speed figure could have been a lot higher if they had actually run through the wire in that case. But this horse was just so much the best that day against Open Company. And I think this horse just makes a ton of sense in this particular spot. And it's hard to really find an alternative because this one won in debut, finished 2nd in Stakes Company over a wet track, then stretched out to a mile and faded a little bit down at Gulfstream Park in the Hallandale Beach, then came back and just absolutely romped at 6.5 furlongs. I don't think 7 is a bridge too far for this horse. Sired by McKinsey out of Trap Shot Mare. I think this horse just makes a ton of sense for Saffie. And the fact that Edgar Zayas is making the trip up lets you know that he thinks that Saffie's got some live runners too. You're not going to make much money on this one, even odds, but I just think this horse is much the best. And honestly, probably a single start off the pick 5. Now, if there's a horse that could shock, I don't know if it's actually probably not my value play, but the number 4 Lightscape for Tom Proctor. This horse was very, very good in debut. Only earned a 61 buyer, but that race already came back with a next out winner in terms of Permian Basin, who came back and improved that speed figure about 9 points. So that's something to keep in mind. If Lightscape can move forward 9 points, then it's somewhere in the vicinity of where Tessellate ran last time out. So keep that in mind. But a horse that I think is interesting value, and I'd probably just throw in a straight exacta, is the number 5 Ridgy at 8-1. And I think this horse is interesting because the horse ran against Lady Valor and beat Lady Valor is the number 1 horse in this race and is 6-1. Well, beat Lady Valor by over a length last time out, and you're getting better odds on Ridgy. I don't really kind of understand that. I wouldn't be shocked if once betting opens, maybe things switch a little bit. But this is a horse that really has done nothing wrong in its career. It debuted against Maiden 25, finished second on the at Presque Isle on the all-weather, then second start, wins easily, then goes to the dirt at Tampa Bay and wins going 7 furlongs, and then steps up to $75,000 optional claiming company last time out, wins that race too, going 6.5. This horse is not that bad. I know it's got a modest pedigree, a Neolithic out of a handsome Mike mare, but bottom line is this horse is 8-1. I think good value. Yes, the speed figures need to get faster, but there's really nothing outstanding in this field outside of Tessellate. So I think that the number 5 Ridgie as a value play makes a ton of sense. Well, let's go to race number 7, which is the Wayward Lass Stakes. I almost started the show by going, carry on my wayward lass, but I decided that might be too much singing multiple weeks in a row. So I just do it in the middle of the program for you who stick around and watch. This race is a prime example of pace makes the race because it features a 4-5 morning line favorite in the form of the number 6 Drexel Hill. Here's the problem. It's a 6-horse field with 0 pace. Drexel Hill is a deep closer. And I just don't know if Drexel Hill is going to be able to get home over this track with this pace scenario. Additionally, if you draw a line through the Kentucky Oaks, this horse has no speed figure advantage to speak of whatsoever. The class is there. Finished second last time out in the Mother Goose off that long 5-month layoff, 6-month layoff from the Kentucky Oaks to the Mother Goose in November. Now has had another 2-month break, comes back. And listen, that Mother Goose looks really good because fully subscribed, who won, came back and blew out the field in the Comely. Looks like a real serious filly and mare for Chad Brown. But bottom line is Drexel Hill is a deep closer. And in some of those races where the horse has tried to show better speed, really has just kind of been one-paced and not made up ground, really likes to come from off the pace. That's when this horse is at its best, coming from off the pace. So I do worry about that because there's not going to be much pace in this race. It's a short field, and the only speed is the number 5, Andrea. And Andrea is a horse for Saffie Joseph. Edgar's eye is up. Yes, there are absolutely questions about whether this horse can get the distance. Has stretched out to a mile twice. Won a stakes race going a mile, and then also faded so badly and lost by 51 lengths going a mile. So it's a bit of both. Now we're trying 2 turns for the first time. Second back from a little bit of a layoff. It attracts Zayas, which I think is the key here. Saffie's got 3 horses, and Edgar chooses to ride this one. That says something to me. Saffie is very good at getting horses to stretch out. And so going sprint to route is something that he has success with. And I think that this is a horse that, because of the pace scenario and the track we're going to be at, has every opportunity to be able to just wire the field because there's no other speed in this race. And I think this horse is just going to be loping along up on the front end, setting its own fractions under a jockey who knows how to ride up on the front end. So I really like Andrea at 6-1 in this spot. You know, you look at the number 4, Runway Diva. Interesting horse. And you might go, Matthew ran second in a couple of stakes races the last 2 times out. Fair. Though I would say the same thing about Runway Diva I say about Andrea is I don't know about the distance. The difference is at least Andrea's got the pace advantage. Runway Diva's got no pace advantage and can't kick as well as Drexel Hill. And those 2 runner-up finishes the last 2 times out came by a combined 11 lengths. So it's not as if she was a competitive second to horses like Foxy Jr. and Regale. Regale did come back to run very well in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, but still, I'm willing to try to play against Runway Diva a little bit there. And that's why ultimately I landed on a horse that I just think is going to have the absolute best trip in this particular case. Now, a horse that I've thought about using as a value play, which is actually the same price as Andrea, which is why I ended up not doing that, is the number 2 Early On. This was Saffie's horse that ran in the Kentucky Oaks, finished second in the Gazelle, finished second in the Virginia Oaks. I think this is a really nice horse. And I got to see her up close and personal at Keeneland when she was staying there ahead of the Kentucky Oaks. And Saffie said to me that day, the more distance, the better with her. She's a Union Rex. The more distance, the better with her. She's a big-bodied mare, filly, who I think is just going to get better as she gets older and better as she continues to stretch out. First off the bench at a mile and a 16th, I'm not sure that's the time. Though I will say, in the Gazelle, she showed much better tactical speed than she had shown other times. She doesn't need to be a closer. If Daniel Centeno is up on the mount, maybe he gets a little bit more speed. But I thought it was notable, Zayas, who rode her in the Oaks, decides to go and ride on Andrea instead. All right, well, let's go to race number 8 on the card, and we're going to break up the Saffie Joseph Jr. early, or late pick 5 in race number 8, which is $55,000 allowance for 4-year-old nut fillies and mares, going 1 1/8 miles on the turf. And quite frankly, folks, there's nobody hotter at Tampa Bay Downs right now than Miguel Clement, winning 58% of his entries, is 7 for 12 winning, and oh, by the way, 11 for 12 hitting the board. Incredible numbers that Miguel's putting up at Tampa Bay Downs. And you have Sam Marin up on the mount, the two of them together winning 71% of the time. That is insane. 71% of the time with a $4.66 or $4.66 ROI. This is a horse that I think is primed for a big race. The horse debuted on the turf, won on the turf easy, stepped up to allowance, 32 optional claimer, won easy on the turf, then went to the bench from April till November, came back on the synthetic, didn't run that well. Well, the race has already produced an X-out winner. That's good to see. But now we're second back from this lengthy layoff. We're getting back on the turf. I think all those things point to a big effort from Perky. I like this horse a lot at 4-1 for a very hot barn. Second back, getting back on the right surface. I think this horse is absolutely ready to roll for Miguel here. And quite frankly, just betting on Miguel blindly has been a pretty profitable venture at Tampa Bay Downs. I think this horse is going to move forward in the first start at 4 years old. It's interesting because there's a couple of other horses you could talk about in this race. You could look at the number 1, Phoenix of Wit, for Joe Arsenio. Nice horse. You could look at Bill Mott's horse, the number 4, Mystic Sea, another nice horse. Although that's an interesting horse. Bill gets this one to break its maiden on the synthetic, and now we're going back on the turf against winners for the first time. Bill doesn't do the synthetic to turf very often. He also doesn't move them on synthetic all too often. So it's interesting to see that. It's McKinsey, every opportunity to run well. 9-2, very honest price. Tom Proctor's horse, Sonia Henney, is certainly a major factor, but that horse took 8 tries to break its maiden before finally doing so. Now is running against winners the first time. I thought maybe try to play against a little bit. At a price, the horse that I thought was maybe a little bit interesting was number 8, Frida, for Jose D'Angelo, who equally is also having a ton of success at Tampa Bay Downs, winning 43% of the time with Sammy Camacho up on the mount. Sammy knows what he's doing at turf at Tampa Bay. Jose knows what he's doing here. And I think this horse had a first start on the turf, was sprinting 5 furlongs. This horse that had been running on dirt, broke its maiden on dirt, ran in the Forward Gallon Devonadale last year, and then had a real long layoff from March to October, comes back in a turf sprint. And that felt like a race where the horse just needed one. And nothing more than that. Now we're stretching the horse out. I actually like this move to stretch the horse out. Go from sprint to out. It's the City of Light. You can always get more distance on the turf. And this is a horse that has, can run up front, but also can, sit a little further off the pace. Maybe he's a little bit more one-paced. But here's the thing. In a field filled with turf routers, this horse has dirt sprint speed, which means this horse with Sammy could very easily go to the front. And if there's anybody who can rock him to sleep on the front end at Tampa Bay Downs, it's Sammy Camacho. So I think that's exactly what Jose can do in this spot, is get this horse up on the lead, going 1.8 miles. This horse was sprinting 5 furlongs last time. This horse got to the lead going 4.5 and 6.5 furlongs at Gulfstream Park. This horse can get to the front going long on the turf. I think this one tries to take him gate to wire, and if anybody can do it, I think it's this one. Proctor's horse is maybe a little bit of a threat, but again, I think there's a difference between sprinter speed and route speed, and I think Frida has sprinter speed. I think that horse goes out there up on the front end, tries to take him gate to wire at a big price. Well, let's close out the card with a pair of maiden special weight races. The first one on the dirt for 3-year-old fillies, going 6 furlongs. And, Edgar Zayas, like I said, he's got to have a big late pick 5. And we're back to talking about one of his runners, Chit Chat, for trainer Bill Mott. This is a horse that is a City of Light, always a very good precocious sire, has been working out very nicely for Mott. A couple of bullet works out of the gate, which I love to see bullet works out of the gate from these young horses. Now, this is the first this is the first foal from a Union Rags mare. But she won second time out, and she was a pretty precocious horse. More importantly, her second dam is Sweet in the Net, who not only won first time out, but second time out, third time out, and fourth time out, winning 3 stakes races during that stretch. So you have a very precocious female family. I think that makes a lot of sense. And you see the bullet works for Mott. Not a trainer usually gets him cranked up first time out. This one seems like it's been doing it on its own. Attracts a horse like Zayas. I think this horse makes a lot of sense at 5-2. It's a short price, admittedly, for an unraced maiden. But I think this one, it just struck me as the connections are a little bit more trustworthy. The pedigree's a little bit more there than some of the other horses in this field. In terms of the value play, I really like another first-time starter. This one's for Tom Proctor. Tom Proctor, by the way, last year was like 1 for 45 at one point, and then started the Tampa Bay Downs meet. The man can't lose at Tampa Bay Downs. 5 for 9, 56%. Had been 2% before he started at Tampa Bay Downs. Now is at 56% at Tampa Bay Downs. Martina Rojas up on the mount. This one's a Caravaggio out of a Ghost Sapper mare. Now, again, first time out, the first foal, so you don't have a lot of, what are the siblings doing? But the mare by the book won in second start, first time on synthetic. And you also look the second dam closeout, won first time out at first asking. So again, good female precocity on the female side of the family. And Caravaggio is an outstanding early influence as a sire. So I like Caravaggio as a sire in general. I like his runners first time out. I think he's a really good value sire as well. So I think this one at 8-1, May Gray. Hey, maybe it's not part of the Go-Go Gray stables with Dave Portnoy, but I think this one is pretty good. So I like the 10 May Gray as a bit of a value play in race number 9. Well, let's close it out with race number 10, another $55,000 maiden special weight for 4-year-olds up, fillies and mares, going a mile and 16th on the turf. And we're going to go to a Will Walden horse here. And listen, I looked at Chad's horse. Chad's got a horse here, the number 7 Celtic Motif. If I'm playing the late pick 5, the horse is absolutely on my ticket. No two ways about it. Chad runs good horses at Tampa. I think there's always been a myth that Chad runs his B horses at Tampa. That might have been the case at one time. That's not the case anymore. Chad runs a lot of his good horses at Tampa because he likes that turf course, and I don't blame him. Celtic Motif, 2-1, certainly is going to be tough. No two ways about it. Is a little one-paced, I think, in terms of that the start last time out, which was admittedly the first start in a while, but now it's taken over 2 months to get back onto the track. Going to be interesting to see. Could absolutely move forward with Sam Marin up on the mount. And then you look at the number 6 Vronti, 4 Graham Motion, a horse that finished second 3 times overseas. Graham doesn't have a ton of success with maidens making their first start in North America. That's not really what his MO is. I think he's 1 for 11. This one has some nice workouts. No two ways about it. Good foundation, 4-1. I get it. But Graham is pretty cold at Tampa right now. He's 0 for 10. Only 2 for 10, even hitting the board at this meet. I ended up going to the number 1, the Palace Girl, 2-1 or 7-2 on the morning line for Will Walden. And this horse had a long layoff, debuted back in 2024, and then went to the bench from October 2024 to late October 2025, so almost a year on the bench. Ran at Keeneland and actually went off as the 9-5 favorite that day with Johnny Velasquez up at Keeneland. Well, the horse, didn't get off to a great start, was kind of in traffic the whole time around, just, kind of ran in place, basically ran in a straight line, as Kaylee likes to say. Now we're getting second start off that real long layoff. Blinkers are coming on. Edgar Zayas attracted to the mount. I think that's a positive because Edgar, out of all the jockeys, is kind of who I want in terms of the out-of-towners. Horse has some nice works coming back into this race. Will gave this horse a little bit of time off, but not much time off. Basically got this horse back on the work tab in mid to late November and has been working steadily ever since. So I like that there hasn't been a break in training, despite a little bit of a layoff, a little bit of a freshening. And additionally, the blinkers are coming on. Over the last 5 years, Walden is winning 25% of turf maiden special weight races when adding blinkers. Notable, because Will's a pretty good trainer and knows what he's doing. He's a 21% trainer overall last year. I think this is a horse that can take a big step forward. You look at that work 3 back over the turf, 47-3. This horse is showing a little bit more. I love the 5 furlong workout leading up to this one as well. So that's going to be my top pick. Then I'm going to go towards the outside. Another Tom Proctor horse. We talked about him in the last race. We got him here again in number 10, Pop Art, 6-1. I thought ran a really good race last time out. Medaglia d'Oro out of a distorted humor mare. $750,000 this horse was. So this horse has some big expectations. Started on the dirt, went from January to December, almost a full year without running. Comes back in December 3rd. Runs, I thought, a really good race. Finishes second that day. Weekend's a little bit late, as you would expect off that long of a layoff. Now we've gotten a little bit of work in since that race. Actually, 3 works in since that December 3rd race. I love to see that. So you expect the conditioning is going to be there. The 74 Beyer speed figure certainly is more than competitive and could absolutely move forward in this spot. I think it's 6-1. Pop Art makes a lot of sense to try to close out the card on a little bit of a value play. All right, folks, that'll do it for me this week on Capping the Card. Appreciate everybody tuning in and watching as I go through the 10 races on Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs. If you're not playing on NYRA bets already, make sure to use that promo code BONUS200 today. All right. We want to hopefully we get 7 winners, 8 winners, 9 winners, 10 winners again this week. But listen, thank you again so much for tuning in to this episode of Capping the Card. Hope everybody enjoys. Great weekend of racing. We're going to be back with more content on NYRA Bets YouTube. Going to get you geared up for the Lecomte down at Fairgrounds next week. We're going to get you geared up for the Pegasus World Cup in a couple of weeks as well. All right, folks. My name is Matthew DeSantis. Wishing you a great and profitable day at the races. And reminding you, friends, it's now post time.